Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Red Text Podcast. This is Voga, and I'm Voga Lumicente on Instagram.
And I am Rai, aka the Misty Soul Mystic on Instagram.
Oh my gosh, today we have such the most special guest ever. She is known as the most dangerous woman on the internet for reasons that I will not divulge right now here on this public platform. But if you know her personally, then you know that she is the most dangerous woman on the internet. And my friends will confirm that she is the most dangerous woman on the internet. That's the reason why her hair is so big. It's full of secrets. And odds are she knows yours. So be very careful with this one. We love her very, very much. We can't trust her as far as we can throw her. Her name is Florence, and she is the Trans Folk Witch on Instagram. And we love her. She's amazing. She is a magical practitioner that exists on the internets. And she is also a podcast host that I am waiting for another episode to come out because the last episode that I remember was Rye's episode, I believe. Or no, there's one after that, but I don't remember who is the guest. But I remember Rye's episode was like the one episode I remember listening to. But anyways, Florence, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, your pronouns, etc., everything that you want to divulge, please.
My name is Flo. I'm the Trans Folk Witch on Instagram. I run a podcast called Becoming Our Lady. I'm on hiatus, and definitely making a podcast by yourself is not fun, especially when it's free. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, Rye was the last person on my podcast. That was a lot of fun. I have removed a lot of my podcast episodes just for privacy reasons. I had a lot of people on the internet who didn't like me. So that's a whole other topic. Most of them were TERFs, so that's fine.
Oh,
God.
But yeah, just like you said, I am the most dangerous woman on the internet. Thank you for giving me that title. I love that. No one's ever called me such a great thing before.
I was going to say that was a title that I coined that I told Austin. Austin was like, that's her. That's exactly who she is.
It is. If you don't know me, my Instagram, most of my stories, if they're not just like stupid, like cute animal videos, then they definitely are me calling out people I see on Instagram or other forms of media. There's a lot of fake girls out there. There's a lot of little girlies out there who think that they're hot when they're not.
Yeah, there are a lot of dollies who are not performing. They're not. This is not doll behavior, and Flo
and
will
some of them have podcasts.
And some of them
take their mics away.
Ooh, yikes! Let's stop giving straight men mics, please. Yeah, so Flo is absolutely incredible. Their feed really gives me so much. I have so much fun. The thing about it is that whenever Flo like hits me up, like DMs me or whatever, it's usually about tea, and it's usually in response to something that I post on my story. It's either like a person that I post on my story, just like, I have tea. I was like, spill, and then we're just like
everyone
we're like gabbing for like
everything.
I know. Flo really has everyone's secrets. It's incredible. So this is
I
the
also
one that...
know where they all live, but I'm like that's like my secret superpower. Whenever I was very young, my mom taught me how to like stalk people on Google. So whenever I meet someone, the first thing I do is just figure out where they live. So don't get too close.
She looked me up even.
She's
was
crazy.
Like, you got nothing. She looked me up and she was like, you got nothing on your record, you're good. But she found out where my address was. I was like, bitch, oh my God.
Love that.
Oh, it was. That's what I'm saying. Most dangerous woman on the internet. So keep an eye out for this one. She is dangerous. But before we get into the topic, I just want to do a really quick check-in as per usual. Let's start with my gorgeous co-host, Rye. How have you been doing since the last time we spoke?
Good. I mean, we just spoke, like a couple days ago?
Yeah. We've been bulk recording, y'all, because Rye's about to go on a trip, so we've been recording a lot of episodes lately too. So I'm a little tired, but I'm doing it for us to make sure that we get these episodes out. But anyways, how you doing?
I'm good. My little sister came through this weekend because we saw Sam Smith on Monday night at the Chase Center. It was fantastic.
Yeah. There was a thing
so
going
good.
on going around TikTok where like they were thanking like for San Francisco for like helping them like come into like their like identity. Like I saw people were getting like emotional.
Really? Oh, I didn't see that, but they were shouting out like the Castro and stuff. I guess they were walking around the Castro this weekend in the city. I don't know how I would have reacted if I ran into Sam Smith on the streets, but great vocals, amazing vocals, great costumes, or like just wardrobes, amazing. And
The
then
gender
textiles are
euphoria, like they're
The
in their
textiles are
gender
giving.
euphoria era.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
the whole, like,
she is truly in her gender euphoria era for sure.
absolutely. The whole like devilish gay cabaret at the end, it was phenomenal. Anywho, took my sister to go see that because she and I saw Sam Smith for the first time together like years back when I love their older music. Like their new album's cute, it's whatever, but like their older music is like where it's at for me.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and then I took her to see Barbie for the first time yesterday. She loved it. It was my third time seeing it, and it was great. I liked it. I just like the soundtrack.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. That movie also gave me gender euphoria.
Yeah, same. I'm
It was-
not a big movie rewatcher, and I just can't stop going.
Yeah, it's. I'm also not a movie rewatcher. That movie was fantastic. The second that I saw the trailer, when her foot stepped out of the heels, and they were
Yeah.
perfectly like made for the heel, I knew I would love it.
So
Great.
kind.
There's so many Easter eggs in the movie too, because Greta Gerwig is like a huge like film fanatic, and so there's a bunch of references. Like the very beginning of the films, they reference like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's all cute. And then I'm super stoked because my transcendental meditation course is this weekend, and I've been on and off with my meditation practice, so I'm really excited to like learn this new meditation technique and hopefully like make it a habit, because I've heard mostly good things about it. Some people have had like intense experiences with it, but I feel like since I'm doing a lot of work on myself that I'm hoping it'll be more positive than anything else. But I'm just stoked to like get this new technique under my belt. But other than that, I've just been chilling. Ooh, I hung out with Shane today for the first time in like months, and we
I miss her.
We went to this co-working
I recognize
space.
that name.
What's their Instagram? Midnight Gospel. So Expensify has a co-working space in the city, and as long as you're a member, which like the lowest one is like $10 a month, you can use their co-working space, and it looks like this like high-end like airport lounge bar, and like all the drinks like and cocktails are all complimentary, like coffee, alcohol, snacks, like everything there is complimentary aside from like the $10 a month you pay. And so like Shane and I like took 2 shots of tequila before we left, and then like I got like an Aperol Spritz, which is one of my favorite cocktails, and I'm like, for $10 a month, like all these free
my
drinks,
God.
like absolutely sign me up. And it's just a cute spot to go study and work at, so now I have like a new place to go study. But
I love that.
yeah, how are you?
I'm God. Okay, I have some updates that's happened within the last couple of days, which is so weird, mundane and magical. So I have some tea. So some people who have been following the podcast for the last couple of months know that I am now in a new clinic. I got a new job because of different reasons. But I was desperate for a new job. I was desperate for leaving my prior place because of different reasons. I was very stressed out. There was a lot of expectations, blah, 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 blah. And the likelihood of me finding another job, especially in a building that I specifically wanted to go to, was very, very low. So, me being who I am, wanted to increase my chances of actually getting a job that I actually wanted, and did a novena to a spell. I actually did like an actual 9-day spell. I just wanted to kind of talk about the consequences of magic because the spell worked, I got the job, but it was at the expense of somebody else that I found out, and it happened. I found out yesterday. And sometimes these are kind of the consequences that you have to endure when it comes to performing magic. There is a balance that the universe needs to kind of uphold, and sometimes when you fuck around, you'll find out, okay, this one didn't affect me personally. It actually, it benefited me in great ways. I got the exact job and the exact building that I actually casted for, but it was at the expense of someone else. I actually, in some ways, took their place at this building. This person, I found out through people talking around me, that this person was kind of forced out of the building and was not happy about it, by the person who gave me the job. So like they were trying to force them out into another building that they didn't want to go to, but eventually they kind of like agreed because like they were kind of being pressured into doing it so that they could make room for me to get that job. So I found that out, and I got obviously this guilt started to set in because I was just like, I don't even know this person, and this person probably thinks that I like stole their job away from them, right? And so like this whole thing kind of happened, and then I thought back and I was like, how the fuck did this happen? Like I was like, because you lit a candle and you prayed really fucking hard for this job and you got it. And this is kind of like the consequences of magic sometimes, where sometimes to get the things that you want, the things that you ask for, the things that you pray for, it might be taking something else away from taking that thing away from somebody else. And it's just something that you kind of have to deal with. There's nothing I could do about it now because I work there, but like it's just one of those things. I have that in my brain now, that like I'm there because someone had to leave. So that happened. That was a little lesson that I had to learn. I was very aware of it, but like the thing about it, like that's happened before. Consequences for my magic has happened before, but not to that extent. Nothing has really backfired on me. This was really a backfire, but this was kind of like a lesson on, consider all aspects of your magic, who it could potentially be affecting. Didn't really consider it. I just wanted to get a new job, and I did, and someone had to suffer for it. Someone who is in some way may be completely innocent. They just had to kind of suffer the consequences of my magic. So my spell worked, which was cool. Someone had to suffer for it, which was not that cool. Also, something that I also was able to finally get today was my PTO payout from my last job. Some advice that I can give to, like, it was a lot of money because I did not take a vacation for like 3 years. So I had over 100 hours of PTO racked up.
God damn.
So I got a lot of money back. But the thing about it is, because it's PTO payback, let me just tell anyone who has the privilege of having PTO or benefits like that, take your vacation days, because PTO payback or PTO payout is fucking highway robbery. They take like 30%. If you do PTO payout, they don't give you 100% of what you're entitled to. So if you have PTO, take the PTO because you get 100% back. If you actually take the vacation days, they pay you 100%. But if you get the payout, they take like 30% of it. And they tax you like 30%. So I was supposed to get like almost $6,000 in this PTO payout, and they took like $1,700.
God,
and I was really annoyed. I was like, $1,700 is an absurd amount of money to take away from me that I earned. Like PTO was earned, and they took that away from me because I didn't take vacation days. And I didn't have a choice. Where was I going to go? I was going to take vacation days during a pandemic. Where was I going to go? I'd rather work, right? And that's exactly what I did. So, but anyways, I got my check. I was like destitute broke for like a little bit because like I started this new job and I haven't been paid yet. So like I was like, anyways, so that was cool. I got my money. I got my job. Someone had to suffer for my magic. Little lesson learned. Someone might actually suffer for the magic that you cast. So be careful. Enough about me. Flo, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I also had some pretty big work stuff happen today, but just a racist bitch got let go, and we love to see
Yum.
it. Hmm.
Yum. That's so yummy.
Yeah.
Bye.
We have a Zoom call every Wednesday, twice every Wednesday. And this morning we were just talking about life, and she was like talking about how she's single and on all of these dating apps, and she just casually slipped in that she is just not attracted to black men, and that she wishes that there weren't as many of them where she lived. And I'm just like, ma'am. And of course, like, no one said anything.
Absurd.
And I was like, should I be the one to say something?
What an
And I
absolutely
didn't. I wish I
absurd
would
thing to
have.
say.
But then, whenever we got to our second Zoom meeting, just like, I don't know, 4 hours ago, our boss said she won't be joining us today. She's being let go. And when I tell you, our little group message kicked her out immediately. And we were talking so much mad shit. And it was,
Of
bye,
course.
Angela, bye, girly, if you're watching this.
Oh, fuck you, Angela.
But yeah, we love to see it. I wish that I would have said something, but again, like, what do you do? It was so unexpected. What would you even say in that situation?
Well, I mean, yeah, I probably would have made a stupid joke saying, like, I don't know. I don't even know what I would say.
I think I would have just been like, "Oh."
I would have like initially I would have thought that was like a joke, because like I
don't know.
I would have never I just like in my head I would never think that someone would be as brazen or as fucking presumptuous as to just think that saying like that is okay.
I'm not surprised anymore.
I think it was because like everyone on the Zoom was white, so she just assumed we all agreed with her. And it was just like, girl, and it would be one thing, and this is not an excuse, but I live in Arkansas. I didn't mention that. I live in the Ozarks. I practice Ozark traditional witchcraft, just looping that in there. But racism here is a little more open than, say, in California. But this girl lives in California.
Oh, so she's just an idiot.
So she's
Yeah.
just an idiot.
Yeah, she's just an idiot.
She
It
fucked
was
around and
just
found
really
out.
unexpected.
Well, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the racists in Arkansas are idiots too. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like,
definitely. Yeah.
But like to say that you don't want, you wish that there were less black people around you in California because you're unattracted to, like, that's absurd. What an absurd.
That's the
thing to
dumbest
say.
thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, it's so
one of
what
the
a
dumbest I've heard. For
so
sure.
stupid. Those are the people who are just like, then move, like
Right.
go somewhere. Go somewhere. Go
And like,
somewhere
why
where-
mention this at work at 8:05 in the morning?
Also, yeah, what a
Starting the
stupid,
day with that?
Yeah.
like talking about who you are, or talking about your relationships in the first place is such a stupid thing to. Anyways, oh my God, bye, Angela. I hope I hope you never find a job ever again. I hope you never
Same.
find love. Fuck you.
Thought maybe she's the bitch that you took the job from.
No, I wish that would be
if
incredible.
only, yeah.
No, I wish. No, apparently the person that I took the job from was actually a very, very well-liked
Oh.
person.
That's sad.
Oh.
So, like, I understand now that some of the nurses have been kind of passive-aggressive to me. So, yikes. Whatever. I'm getting my money. I don't care. I care a little bit. That's not true. I care a little bit. I feel kind of
Job's
bad.
a job.
A job's a job, and I did the work, and I did the magic. I'm
Survival of
sorry.
the fittest.
It is.
At the end
survival
of the day,
of the
someone
fittest.
would have got the position, and it just ended up being you.
I honestly don't think the conversation would have been initiated if I didn't ask for the job. If I wasn't asking for if there was a full-time position open, because that was how I started the conversation. Was like, is there a full-time position open? And then they started working. They started making sure that there was a full-time position open, and that's also because I lit that fucking candle. Sorry, I'm really good at what I do. I'm really good at magic. I'm sorry. So, speaking of, the reason why we asked Flo to be on the podcast were for many reasons. We've been wanting Flo on the podcast for a while. We're basically podcast siblings, I think, because we cover some of the same topics, even though I think that Flo's cosmology is a little bit more less traditional, let's say. There's a lot of different praxis. A lot of it's very UPG heavy, based on her own research and
Yeah.
experiences.
Based on whatever I see on whatever drug I'm taking at the time.
That's right. And whichever planet and whichever
So
angel is
valid.
associated with that planet. Yeah, it goes into things.
Yeah.
Y'all should really listen to what is available of Becoming Our Lady. They truly are interesting conversations.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I can't wait for you to start producing more. I'm not pushing you in any way, but I'm just saying.
I know. I'll probably get around to it sometime, but
I thoroughly enjoy your content, so please, whenever you feel inclined to, please do. But we wanted Flo to come on because something that we haven't really dove deep into is kind of like the queer Catholic perspective is something that we have mentioned here and there, something that is very inherent in all of our practices. Ryan and I talk about our queerness all the time, but we never really spoke about in depth how we navigate the queer space as well as the Catholic pantheon and how that works for us and how it makes it different from someone who might be a traditional Catholic. As something that Ryan I've definitely grown into my gender expression, into my gender identity in this podcast. A lot of it's because of Rye, and because Rye I think was more, I don't know,
Quirky?
no, not quirky. I was gonna say more like gender mature, I guess. I don't know what or like more, I don't know, knowledgeable in teaching me on how like my gender should be expressed and how my gender should be. It's not just you though. It was a lot of you, a lot of Austin, and a lot of other people that were around me.
Austin, loudmouth girl. She's loud.
That lady really, she knows. If you're the most dangerous woman on the internet, she's definitely the second.
She's yeah.
But yeah, right. The topic of queer expression and queer Catholicism. How do you see that? How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's all just so nuanced. I mean, it manifests differently for each practitioner, but I think particularly for queer individuals, because each of us express our queerness in our own different, authentic, unique ways, and I feel like that also reflects in one's magico-spiritual practice. And so I'm really curious to hear Flo's experience with not even just the Catholic realm, but like just your practice in magic as a whole. Yeah, I feel like Voga and I have spoken so much to our experiences.
You. I think you even had a whole episode about your genders. I think like whenever whenever you first came out, y'all had a whole episode, a fantastic episode. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of like you said, nuance to being queer. But for me, I'm trans woman. My pronouns are she, her, and for me, there's not too much for us in the Catholic community. Like, they don't talk about it. We don't exist, and if we do, it's not good. So everything that I've kind of put into my practice has been from more pagan or animist perspectives. In fact, I'm kind of getting to a place where I'm not even really calling myself a folk Catholic anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think it's more like Catholic animism, or honestly, just my religion can't really be defined by these terms. But basically, to break it down, I take local gods. I'm an animist at heart. I take local gods, ideas from Ozark folklore, and then I anthropomorphize them with Catholic saints and spirits. So for me, like, Jesus is the sun god, and there's so many people that think that he's been syncretized with Sol Invictus. You can go down a whole rabbit hole. Mary, Earth Goddess, there's people out there. It's not just me, I promise. I'm not crazy. But I am not so much interested in defining my spirits and my beliefs based on what the Catholic Church has to say. I didn't grow up Catholic, and even if I did, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna just do with my spirits whatever I want and whatever they say to. And that didn't really have anything to do with me being trans. I started doing that, venerating Mary, even before I realized that I was trans. But now it's just kind of like, does queerness does intersect, but also does it matter? Do we have gender to the spirits? Does Mary see me differently than she does a cis woman? or a cis man. I don't really know. That's the question. I also feel like there is this deep witch, like I also practice traditional witchcraft. So for me, my queerness is more aligned with the traditional witchcraft aspects of my practice, not so much the folk Catholicism. It's not like, I feel like queerness has been villainized in the church, so why don't I just become a Satanist? Like I just kind of dancing with the folkloric devil, that is more representative of my queerness than Jesus or Mary or whatever saint I have here. Not to say they don't accept it, because to me they're just archetypes, but I don't really feel like that's something that I really even delve too much into. I feel like queerness, specifically being trans, is something that is so historical and very pagan and accepted in indigenous communities, and the Catholic Church tried to erase that. So if we want to put queerness back into Catholicism, meaning like traditional Catholicism, we would need to reinstate more indigenous beliefs into Catholicism and stop creating dogma and telling people how to believe and taking the Bible as literal fact all the time. So, yeah, I don't know.
No, I totally agree with you. And to be totally honest with you, I have no interest in implementing any sort of queerness into traditional Catholicism.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
I have no interest in that because, frankly, what is that really going to? First of all, I don't think it's possible. That is a battle that is worth nothing to me. It's not worth my time. But I do think that navigating and deconstructing Catholicism to the point to where it actually reflects my queerness is something that I had to do. Something that actually fits is something that I had to do, because like what you were saying is like, does it matter to Mary whether I'm queer or not? Yes and no. I think the fact that I'm queer doesn't matter, but I think the fact that I present myself as my truest self to her matters more.
Yes.
So I tell folks when I'm doing really big workings, I don't know why I said that. I tell my friends when I'm doing really, really big workings. I told Franny this, I think one of the times we were actually going to cast like a huge conjuration. I told her I was writing the conjuration myself, and I said, we need to glam up for this one. I want you to really show like our spirits how we like to present ourselves at our truest form, at our most beautiful form. And so we did. Like we spent like an hour and a half before glamming up for a conjuration, because I wanted to present ourselves to our spirits the way that we wanted to show ourselves, like how we like to show ourselves, like how we want to see ourselves, right? So I think there is an aspect of my queerness that is part of my queerness, that is part of my queer identity, is being able to transform myself and show myself that I can turn into this person. Because there is a little bit of a especially with the days, because I'm fluid. Like my gender identity and my gender expression changes from day to day. Unless it has to come up with my brand and my Instagram, this is what you're gonna see, because it's the brand. But you know, there are times where I see myself and I can't get myself to put my makeup on, and there is this. It turns into a trigger for me where I'm just like, I don't see myself as the person that I want to be when I present myself to the altar or present myself to my spirits. So sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't.
Yes.
So I kind of have to constantly navigate when it matters and when it doesn't matter. You know, it depends on what. That's really dictated by me. It's not dictated by my spirits. It's my spirits kind of accept me for any. The spirits that are kind of less, I guess, forgiving are more like my ancestors, because it's something that's foreign to them. It's not something that's really conventional. It's not something that they really grew up seeing. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit more apprehensive with presenting myself to my spirits this way. But my heavenly court, that's a little bit different. Like I present myself in my most powerful, as my most powerful image, right?
I feel the exact same way, but it's funny that you mentioned ancestors. Because tomorrow is my late grandfather's birthday. So I am trying to do like a cute little thing. I do something every year. We have this thing in the Ozarks called a dumb supper. It's essentially just a darkly or dim lit room where you prepare a meal, and at the head of the table, you have an empty chair for the ancestor in question. And it's called the dumb supper because being dumb and mute, it's very ableist, but that's what it's called. You would be quiet and you cannot make any noise. This would be a very silent dinner, or it would be displeasing to the spirits. So I'm planning on doing that tomorrow. And my big problem is like this is my first time having him specifically since I've come out as trans. So I'm just like, oh, how is this gonna, like, I haven't done divination on it. I've never considered, like, is this spirit going to like flip the table? I don't know. So yeah, that's just something that I've also been wondering. But I feel like other spirits, like my father, he died several years ago. His spirit was not chill. His spirit was like trying to mess up my life and gave me flat tires and gave me the flu, like things like that, around the time that I conversed with the spirit that I was trans. And that was one of those times where you gotta pull out the brick and you gotta stomp it on the spirit's effigy. And you've got to teach the spirit. That's one of those moments where the witch has to command the spirit and not just be friends with the spirit. There's this thing in the Ozarks where you would trap a spirit in sometimes a bottle, and that's not just in the Ozarks, it's everywhere in the world. But specifically, you would pray, I think it's Psalms 11 something. It's a psalm. I have it written somewhere. I've only done it once. But you would whisper that into the bottle, and then whenever the sun rises, the sun would bring that spirit and trap it in that bottle. And you would just like pee in the bottle, you would spit in the bottle. Just that is fucking with the spirit until they adjust to whatever you need them to do. And sometimes you gotta do it. Doesn't matter if they're your ancestors. If they don't accept you for being queer, yeah, all of your other spirits do. You just gotta teach them. And I know that's dark, but that's traditional witchcraft.
That's yummy. No, that's witchcraft. Yeah, that's so yummy. Right, you have something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's so metal. I love that.
Oh, it's so punk. It's so punk.
Thanks. Yeah, I think there is a overlap with traditional witchcraft and folk Catholicism, and I feel like not many people talk about it. And the people who do, meaning me, people are like, oh, that's not love and light. What would Mary think? What would Jesus think? I don't care.
Right.
When the sun goes down, God's not watching. Most witchcraft is done when the moon is out anyway. Like, I don't really care. I do understand, like, obviously don't curse without covering Mary's effigy, her statue. Obviously don't pray the rosary in front of my devilish altar. There's taboos, but I don't really have an issue combining the two. In fact, that's very present in the Ozarks. The idea that the witch is amongst us in the church. The witch is just in the human skin, fitting in amongst us. It's very tied in with the church. You can't really have one without the other. So I hate Catholicism. I hate evangelicalism, Protestantism. But if they didn't exist, then I would have no I would have no reason to be mean to spirits and be mean to other people and curse and hex and jinx, and I would have no reason. And I love Maleficium. I love, not to be an edgelord, but I feel like that is part of being a witch. And I don't know. I just don't think that praying the rosary should be the extent. Praying to the saints, there should be a space for you to have a dip into your own darkness, into your lower spirits, and just kind of live in that sexual, animalistic part of yourself. And sometimes I feel like folk Catholicism doesn't let you do that. the community doesn't let you do that because that's not present in normal Catholicism. And once you get too far off of book, off of script, they don't really consider you full Catholic anymore. And that's just kind of a problem I've run into where I'm just like, maybe I'm not full Catholic. Maybe there's this, maybe I'm just a traditional witch and I just happen to incorporate Catholic things into my practice. I really don't know. Titles behoove me. So.
Oh God! See, okay, so coming off of Chris's episode, which was the last
Yeah.
episode, and then now talking to Florence, y'all are giving me like this existential crisis in regards to how I identify as a folk Catholic, because like I've always considered myself a folk Catholic for as long as I can remember, especially since I've existed.
It's a good word. It's a
It
good
is.
word.
It is, especially since existing on the internet. It's like it equals a lot of the things that I actually do practice. I incorporate the Catholic pantheon into my practice, but does that necessarily mean that I'm Catholic? Yeah, and then also, by the way, from the way that Chris was describing Jesus in the historical sense and whether or not that person existed, that was sending me into a fucking spiral because I was just like, do I? Because like I don't know if I do anymore. And then
Right.
they were just like, he was just like, well, like it depends. You've cultivated a relationship with this archetype that exists, but you call this archetype Jesus. So does it matter?
Yes.
And I'm just
Whenever
like,
I listened to that episode, I was going into it like, I don't know. I do believe Jesus was a real person. But I came out of it like, no, he's making sense because I also don't
Yeah.
view my Jesus as Jesus. You know, like I don't like the Jesus I'm venerating again. He's the animistic representation of light and love and all the other things that you kind of need in your life to stay stable whenever you're working with the things below, you know? And I don't really care if he was a human that was crucified by the Romans or the Jews or whoever they're trying to say it was. Yeah, he's an archetype. He does what he needs to do, and it doesn't really matter if he was a human because he's a spirit now. So I
Right.
just kind of left that episode feeling like, does it matter if he's real? I mean, I believed everything that Chris said. That was fantastic. It was such a good episode.
it really was.
But does it matter?
Yeah.
Like, there are people that listen to that and were probably like, oh, well, I have such a deep relationship with Jesus, and that really offends me. Well,
Yeah.
like, that doesn't mean you can't still have a deep relationship with him. He just may not have been a person. Just like how Aphrodite wasn't a person, or Odysseus from the Odyssey may or may not have been a person. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I relate to your sentiment, Voga, of like walking out of that episode, and even so far as we've come in this one too, just like I feel like my worldview's being flipped, and it's not making me want to throw out my practice and the foundation that I've built by any means, but it's definitely given me a whole new perspective. And I think that's one lesson I've learned and continue to learn with my queerness, both in sexuality, in gender, in everything, is that just how constant evolution is always
Oh.
unfolding and nothing is ever static, and I have to make room for
You
these
frozen
things to
girl.
shift. I'm frozen?
No, now you're not.
Oh, you're still pixely, but you were
I can
frozen.
hear you though. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'm
can hear
sure
you
it
now.
caught the audio.
You said I picked you. I left you at your gender and sexuality.
Yeah,
That was the thing I heard.
I was saying if there's one lesson that I've learned and continue to learn from queerness, whether that's my queerness in sexuality and gender and just queerness overall as a person, is that there's always this constant fluctuation of transformation and evolution and just change. Like nothing is permanent. And rather than feeling like after Chris's interview and feature on our show that like I didn't believe in what I believe in anymore, it's like no, it's just shifted again. My practice has just shifted again, and it continues to do so, and it actually helped me make way for new beliefs. Fuck. Okay. Did I freeze again?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, and so just queerness in and of itself is magical because I think it has this innate lesson of impermanence and of change, which
Yeah.
I think when having a spiritual, magical, religious practice in any way, shape, or form it's so important to keep that in mind, because I feel like when we hit stagnation, it's, well, one reason, not the only reason, but one common reason is because it's we're unwilling or unaware that change needs to happen. And so I love hearing your perspective, Flo, of your traditional witchcraft but incorporating Catholicism versus it being the other way around of Catholicism or full Catholic incorporating traditional witchcraft, right? Like that shifted for you. And I would love to know, I don't know if you already kind of touched on it, but like, how did your practice come to be? Like, how did you know that your practice became how it is today?
Well, on a dark and stormy night. No. It was around my dad's death, actually. He died unexpectedly in a very traumatic way. We weren't very close. In fact, he was kind of abusive, but it's still one of those things that it just kind of changes you spiritually. It also literally happened within a month of me coming out as trans to my immediate family, my mother and grandmother. So there was a lot going on in my life back then. I was already kind of into the new age shit, in a
As we all
very
were.
gross way.
Yeah.
And
Our
then I
beginnings.
just started getting into traditional witchcraft. The very first book that I read was Folk Witchcraft by Roger J. Horn. Fantastic book, amazing book. It goes so much into just European, American, so many histories of witches across the world, and also just tells you like how to actually do the magic. It's not just a list of ingredients and spells, but telling you what you should feel, what it should look like. And that book really just kind of resonated with me because I felt very othered, like the witch. I felt like the world around me was not accepting me for who I was. I felt like the only person or thing that could understand being trans, losing my father, who I had a very difficult relationship with, was the spirits of the dead and the devil himself. So growing up in a very Protestant home, we were a Church of Christ. So that's not very common, I feel like, in the rest of the United States, but in the South, that's like number two right after Baptist. Lots of Church of Christ people. The Church of Christ is honestly just 1 inch away from being Mormon or one that has so many rules that it's just absurd, right? Like we weren't allowed to listen to music with instruments. Instruments were a sin because God says make melody in your heart. And you can only do that if you sing. You can only use the voice.
Oh, I was
so
just say, wait, what's music
yeah,
without instrument?
yeah.
I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Very strange beliefs. I wasn't allowed to listen to the radio, and that's not all Church of Christ. That was just my very fucked up family. But there was a belief that there was the devil within you, this sin that you cannot get wiped away unless you're baptized. So I was baptized when I was a kid to remove the devil, essentially. And I came up out of the water and I looked down and I was like, I still want titties. I'm still trans. The devil's still here, girl.
Work.
And I realized, like, you can't remove the devil from me. That would be removing me, the queerness, the dark parts that the church is scared of. This is me. So I went down this path, essentially, of just, instead of viewing all of these dark parts as bad, just embracing them and being upfront, like, yeah, I am evil. And if you got a problem with that, see you on the altar, bitch. Like, I don't feel like there's this, there's not this love and light in the traditional witchcraft community. And I was just coming straight out of the new age stuff that was very much love and light. And I was so angry at the world and angry at my family and also myself. So just traditional witchcraft was just a saving grace. Very, the witch's savior, very much one of those like Aradia type beings came forth. And I went through my witch initiation, and I do have a podcast episode about my witch initiation. I may have removed it. I don't know. But I'm actually very vocal about it and like open to people messaging me about it and starting that conversation. I feel like there's a lot of people in this community, both folkloric, folk magic, witchcraft, whatever you are. There are a lot of us that try to make ourselves inaccessible. we're popular, we have thousands of followers on Instagram, we're hot girls, and we're gorgeous. But I think that we need to be able to have a conversation with people because we're the next generation and we're going to be teaching the next generation. And although we don't have to give every part of our practice away, and there is some power in secrecy, in fact, I try to stay as secret as possible because this is like the first time I've ever shown my face on the internet, except for like once in a live that I deleted. So I love secrecy. But we need to make ourselves more accessible. I love a DM from a complete stranger on the internet. I love people asking me questions about my practice. I love talking about my initiation because who does? If I don't, then who's going to normalize the weird things? Who's going to normalize my idea that the devil loves eating people's hair and that's why I'm bald? In case you didn't know that, I'm completely bald. I lost all of my hair when I started estrogen. I thought it was male pattern baldness. My doctor was like, no, you just have a gene for some sort of alopecia and your estrogen awakened it. And I was like, well, this happened around the same time that I started my witch initiation. It happened around the same time my father died. Like, my idea is that the devil loves consuming people's hair. And that is one of my favorite ways to hex people, by the way. But I think that there is this need, this hunger for things that are not in the books, the things that are not talked about on podcasts or anywhere on the internet. And if we're closing ourselves off from communication, then no one's ever going to feel comfortable with their very strange UPG. So yeah, that's my spiel. But I love communicating. I have a Discord. I love people coming in my Discord and asking very personal questions and sharing very personal experiences. I think that we're too wrapped up in secrecy sometimes.
I I think there is a lot of power in secrecy. I think you're 100% right. I think a lot of my practice is not anymore displayed on the internet because I kind of learned my lesson in just giving too much because I don't think that there is really a need for it yet because like I'm still not well in practice, and I think it's just I'm doing myself a disservice by just putting everything out there. And I think there should be a sense of moderation when it comes to putting your stuff out there, especially yourself out there, just for protection's sake. Like I am adamant about the folks who know when my birthday is to keep their fucking mouth shut. Like whenever that like happens, like I don't want a birthday post. I don't want like this or that. Like I don't want any of it. None of you talking about it. If we're going to hang out, no pictures, no posts on Instagram, all that stuff. So there is a certain amount of secrecy that does exist within my practice. Of course, I think moving in secret is extremely powerful and it's also extremely necessary. But I love how this conversation, see, this is what happens when flow comes. It's just the conversation flows into different things. And I love this. I don't even know.
ADHD.
I know.
It's mental illness.
I think I've seen that TikTok with ADHD. ADHD.
No.
Oh my God. It's so funny. Anyways, I'll send it to y'all. Anyways,
Please.
see, I don't even know what we're going to call this episode anymore because it's just diving into different topics.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It's good. Especially because I do want to dive a little bit into your strange UPG since you mentioned it. Because you do really have a strange UPG. I think that's something that we can definitely go into in the podcast, in the post show. Flo, are you going to be joining us for the post show?
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
In fact,
So-
I didn't think it was an option not to. So.
Well, of course it's an option. You can. There's always options. But yes, I think diving into your strange and unique, very niche UPG is something that we can talk about in the post show. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the Patreon so you can consume the post show with Lawrence and Rye and I, and that would be very interesting conversation. But also in regards to moving in secret, I think that because like us as queer individuals, I think we've had to kind of condition ourselves to move in secret because being queer was something that we had to keep a secret for a while. So I think being queer individuals and also magical practitioners, it came naturally to us. Holding your power in secret is something that came naturally to us, and I think we have been over conditioned in being kind of keeping our secrets and holding our secrets a little bit too tightly. And like you said, like for folks who communicate as effectively as we do, as all of us are podcast hosts, like our job is to communicate effectively. So divulging a certain amount of my practice and I guess in some way teaching. I'm not in any way claiming that I'm in any way a teacher. Like I'm still very much in my, I want to say the adolescence of my practice. I don't think I'm in a place where I should be teaching anything. I'm in no way close to being like an elder, even though a lot of my cunty friends will call me an elder because apparently
She's elderly.
because I'm elderly. But yeah, I mean, the aspect of moving in secret and your queerness, I think, also has they kind of intersect a lot of it, because I think we're just conditioned to do so. And then also going into now I'm going back into like my Catholic, identifying as a Catholic. How do I fucking see that as? Because like my Catholicism is something that I don't keep necessarily a secret. And also, it's actually really interesting. I do keep my Catholicism a secret from my father, because my father is a Protestant, and so
Period.
keeping it a secret from my dad is something that I'm not like out like talking about it all the time, or like wearing my rosaries or carrying my rosaries or praying certain prayers around my dad. It's very like Jesus centered. It's very like, you know, you ask Jesus or you ask God and God shall answer, or whatever. It's very Protestant. So yeah, so it's interesting now that I've always known this, but like you've kind of cued that part of my brain that started to realize it's like, even in my Catholicism, I'm moving in secret from certain people, you know?
Yeah, I think, like in terms of being a closeted witch, or that's the word that goes around right now, but I think there's no need to come out as a witch or a full Catholic or anything. And I know that not to say like you should never tell anyone, but like I haven't told a lot of my friends and family. I'm not necessarily hiding it. There are some family members I wouldn't want to know. My mother does not understand the extent of my devilry, but she knows, like, I venerate Mary, I venerate Jesus. She knows these things. She doesn't know that I view him as a sun god and I talk to trees and do all that stuff, but she doesn't have to. It doesn't matter. She's my mom. She's not, like, my best friend that I have to tell everything to.
Right.
I don't know. I just think that it's okay to have your own personal things. You don't have to broadcast everything on the internet. You don't have to tell everyone in your life everything. But also, like, you should be a little open. You should be open to share some things, and you should be open to gossip with your besties about your spiritual experiences. So yeah, there's, like, again, like, being queer and full Catholicism or whatever, like, it's important sometimes, it's not important other times. It's all relative to time and place and who you're speaking to.
I'm really starting to not like that term anymore. That
Why?
term, folk Catholicism. Like, I'm not liking it
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I don't.
Well,
like...
also because, like, who are the folks? Like, are we, like, if we put, like, Italian folk Catholicism in front of it, that tells us, like, where you're basing
Right.
it from. If you say, like, American folk Catholicism, because now in the community it's becoming such a mangled up thing. If you say it, they're like, oh, well, what kind? I don't know, bitch. Like, I do this, I do a little of that, I do a little of this. I feel like we need to streamline our vocabulary a little bit so that we can say what we think and what we are, and people can kind of understand what it means specifically. But again, some people don't like boxes, some people don't like labels. I don't know, it's difficult. Terms are difficult, words are difficult. And then you think of languages that don't have as many words as English, and you're like, how would they describe this? Do they care? I don't
Doesn't
know.
matter.
Does it matter? Yeah.
Speaking of like words in different languages, I just saw this TikTok of like this woman who married this like man from Italy, an Italian, like an actual Italian man, and I guess in Italy they don't
An actual Italian man.
an actual Italian man,
Not an
Apparently-
artificial one. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
not one of the lab grown ones.
Right.
Apparently they don't have the word toes in their vocabulary. Like I think they just call them like
Oh.
their
Oh yeah,
their-
like fingers
their,
for your feet.
fingers for your feet, fingers for your feet.
I saw that
he's like-
TikTok.
he like had he looked like a loading sign was going off in his head. He was like, toes.
I saw that TikTok. That's
That's so
funny.
cute.
Yeah,
Well, they
That
don't
man
have
is
the
fine
word
as
for-
fuck. God, I follow them. That man is fine as fuck. God.
Wait, is he the guy that, like, they always make fun of for how he speaks, like says things in English on
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yes.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
him. He's so
Yeah,
Yeah.
because his
cute.
wife is like American and he's like
Yeah.
very Italian.
He
They're
is so
very
cute.
sweet. They're a very sweet couple.
But like, yeah, I mean, I feel like what everything was being discussed in the last couple of minutes is all about balance, right? Like the balance of secrecy as well as the the balance between being open and being secretive, or the balance between like blending this and that. And yeah, I don't know, like folk Catholic almost isn't, again, it's like I don't want to fully throw it away, but I feel like I'm also moving
Yeah.
into like a new identity / label. Well, that's what I was gonna say, like the balance between like the use of labels for identity, but also like the abolition of labels, right? Like on one hand, it helps give people an encompassing sense of like, oh yes, this is me, and now I can find people who belong to this similar identity or label as I. But then also I feel like it's so confining, because it's like once you adhere to a label, like I just feel like you can fall into this trap of conditioning yourself to think like, okay, so now I am this label, instead of believing like this label is just part of who I am, and like confusing like the part for the sum of the whole. Yeah, and it's like I'm so interested to see like what's going to be the next, like, I guess, label or identity I take on that's not folk Catholic, while like still having those elements of my practice. Because I don't know, like witch doesn't feel completely on the mark for me. But like then I feel like folk practitioner just also sounds just so like too broad. It's weird. It's
Then there's people
nuanced.
saying that they're like Catholic mystic, or a modern mystic. There's just so many words, and they all have a certain vibe about them, and they all kind of suck. But they all also have like some good qualities. I don't know. There's just language is hard.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we're going to get into semantics, I don't know if it matters as much. I know that it does matter. Like, using those words at a particular time and doing it incorrectly is stupid. So, like, be careful. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think you should take, like, we've talked about this before, obviously, and numerous podcasts and numerous practitioners have talked about this before. You can't slap the label witch on everything. You can't.
No.
Right.
It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't exist that way. Like, it doesn't operate that way. You know. And I said this in, I think, the 2 episodes ago, where I fell victim to it too, where I thought that anyone who practiced any sort of magic in any way could call themselves a witch. That's not how it works. There is a price to pay when it comes to becoming a witchcraft practitioner. If you operate within these currents, there is a price to pay. There is something that you have to give up. There is sacrifice that you have to pay when it comes to working within these currents. And that's why I'm saying, like, through the last couple of episodes and through also within, like, learning new things, and also from my friends and the people that I surround myself with, it's like the idea of being a folk Catholic doesn't necessarily resonate with me anymore, because like before, when I adopted the term and the title as a folk Catholic, I ran with it. Everything was Catholic. Everything was associated with being Catholic. My pantheon, my prayers, the way I operated within my practice was Catholic, but it wasn't witchcraft. And then now, when I've really, really gotten really, really close to my local land spirits and going out to the woods and saying hi, and them really coming up for me and cultivating this relationship, while also at home in my altar having those Catholic spirits also on my side, I kind of like split my time. I also kind of split my practice. So it doesn't resonate with me anymore, because it's not just who I am anymore. I've grown out of it. It's still part of who I am. It's still part of what I do. It's still part of my cosmology, but it's not the majority of it. So the idea of calling myself a witch and also a folk Catholic, I think it's more of like I'm a witch folk practitioner with that also has Catholic element. You know, it kind of like the label's also fluid. Like the label is fluid, just like my gender is, just like my queerness is, because I don't know. At the same time, does it matter? Does it actually matter what I call it? This is what first of all, not a lot of people know what I do anyway, because I don't, like I said, moving in secret. The power of moving in secret is important. And I think not being able to label it and also giving someone a chance to label it for me There's power in that, right? Not giving someone the power to label it for me, telling me how I should identify. I think I should be able to determine that myself, based on my own cosmology and et cetera, but based on my own experiences, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I don't know. It goes kind of back and forth for me. I think this is going to be one of those things that I'm going to be exploring within the next couple of moons to see like what I still consider myself in some way a Catholic.
Yeah, no, same,
But
same.
magically, yes and no, and then also like witchcraft, yes and no. It's like, I don't know. It's like it's difficult to kind of hone in on like what do I call myself, and also
Yeah.
does it matter? I don't know yet.
It does matter sometimes though, because I love weaving. There is this beautiful quote from the book The Witch's Double, I believe, by Roger J. Horn, and I quoted it on my not podcast, sorry, my blog. I quoted it on my blog, and the witch is like a snake, and it weaves from left to right, from Catholic to witchcraft. And I identified with that because the idea that I am a Catholic sometimes when I'm at Mary's altar,
Yeah.
and then I am a witch whenever I'm not at Mary's altar and I'm
Yeah.
in the graveyard. I'm both. And neither. I'm something completely different, and I'm also transgender, and that all is overlapped in a very strange way.
And this is the reason why Flo and I flow together, because there are times where I'll talk on the podcast and she'll listen to the episode and she'll be like, let me talk about what you just mentioned, because this is exactly how I practice. And I'm just like, of course it is. It's like, because like you're right. It does. It goes that way. It goes this way.
Labels are just like that. You can be multiple labels, but you don't have to be them all at the same time.
That's
you can
right.
bounce between them all. You can
That's
be
right.
Catholic at the altar, and you can be a witch outside. Like
Outside.
you can do your nature spirit stuff and then still worship God or whatever. And I think that people call it eclectic. I personally don't like that term.
Neither do
Austin
I.
loves that term. Austin adores that term. She's such an eclectic girly.
I know, but I think Austin loves it because it's condescending. I think that's the reason
Yes.
why she loves that word, is because it's condescending.
But yeah, like you don't have to. Like you said a second ago, you called yourself a full Catholic, and then you like went real hard into Catholicism, and you kind of forced yourself into a label.
Yeah.
And you don't really have to do that. I mean, you can still fit into it in some ways, but there's so much pressure, I think, with figuring out what kind of witch you are. And then there's all these cringy Tumblr types of witches, the lunar witch, the red witch, the green witch, like all these very ludicrous terms.
Bane
but
and
yeah,
Bramble.
I just,
Yeah.
huh?
Bane and Bramble.
Yeah,
The Witch of Bane and Bramble. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I love
very
you.
cringe. Yeah, there's so many
Very cringe.
ways to practice witchcraft, and there's so many labels, sometimes too many labels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There is so much, for me, light in folk Catholicism. And I think a lot of times when people start falling out of the form that we've created called folk Catholicism, that's them representing or feeling a pull towards traditional witchcraft. I feel like that's just my own personal UPG, but I'm like, oh yes, Voga, like go to the nature spirits, like enjoy the darker side of the spirit world. Stop always being under Mary and like love her, adore her, but like sometimes we're human
Gowns.
and we have the devil within us.
Great
And we've
gowns.
got
Great gowns.
yeah,
But-
like I don't know. I love just exploring both sides
The
of everything.
minute I decided to go outside and say hi to those spirits in a very, in a meaningful way, not just like, not just gratitude, which I think is important, but going out and communing in a meaningful way, it totally changed my perspective. And I told Rye the minute it happened, when things started to change for me, where I started to identify and I split my identity, where I said those exact words, where I am a Catholic sometimes and I am a witch sometimes. I'm both all the time, but I don't perform the same way all the time. Like every day is different. You know, I feel like I'm a witch all the time, and I feel like I'm a Catholic all the time, but I don't do those things all the time. I perform differently depending on what I need. Like a lot of the things that I do within my Catholicism is like consults. Like my Catholic spirits are my consults, or like my counselors in what I should perform next, what I should do next. So I was like, okay, so I need to do this curse. Is this warranted? Can I do this? Is this something that I can do? And will I be able to handle the handle the consequences? And that's how like I communicate with my like Catholic pantheon. Like, can I do this? Like, that's kind of how like my witchcraft and my Catholicism kind of intersect, where I seek consult. But then like when it goes to like devotional stuff and like going into like that, I become really Catholic. And then when I go into like more land-based stuff and gratitude, and going more into like my darker stuff, like what you were talking about, going into the woods and saying hi to the spirits and to the devil, and saying like I please walk with me. Those things, they're definitely separate. Like I don't take them at the same time. Like I'm not bringing my local land spirits to my altar, and I'm not bringing my altar to the woods, you know. So I think it's okay to be fluid in your practice. I think it's okay to be fluid in your praxis, and I think it's okay for you to shift and change, and just as long as you're being safe and you're not hurting anybody to an extent. Like definitely hurt if you need to. Take that for what it is. You know, do what you can. This is kind of like this is proof of growth. This is proof of growth in your practice, is that it's not going to stay the same all the time. It's going to change. And I mean, Raya's going through one right now where they feel like things are shifting a little bit. And that's just what it is. It just shifts. It changes.
Voga, next time I'm in LA, I'd love for you to like, I don't know, take me to like a nature spot or some shit and help me like ease into that more like actual witchcraft side, because I feel like I have such
we
a
diving
difficulty.
in, baby.
Oh yeah.
If I wasn't dipping my toes in, you're not dipping your toes in.
That's
we are
fine. That's what I want.
conjuring.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Flo.
Oh, I would feel nervous living where you guys live and going out in nature. I've never really been to like a park where there's an abundance of people. I live out in the middle of nowhere, so I'm just like constantly, I mean, I'm not, but if I were where you guys are, I would constantly be over my shoulder like, is there someone out here? Is there a
it's happened.
person
That's
like
why I'm
sucking and
nervous.
fucking in these bushes over here?
Well, not even
And
that.
I'm
There's just like, there's a lot of, I don't like to use the word crazy loosely because it can come across ableist, but there are a lot of like just houseless folks inside Golden Gate Park, which I live 2 blocks away from. And so that's one reason, like I'm a paranoid bitch. Like if I'm going to be in the dark and I hear noises, like I'd rather it be a spirit than like, I don't know, like a houseless folk trying to like attack me or some shit in the middle of the night. Because people in SF are fucking wild.
And I also think that there's spirits in the city, you know, like you don't always have to go to nature. Like this is one of my spirit obsessions. I've always been interested in the idea of the Rat King in New York City. Just like this big...
That is definitely a spirit within itself, for sure.
Yeah, like this huge god of the rats that lives in the
Right.
sewer. Like, that's like a devil, in my opinion. And I just am obsessed with
It
these
has to
city
be.
spirits. Yeah.
Right,
like
do you know what the Rat King is?
No, but it maybe, have y'all seen the VHS movies?
What?
Oh my god! So it's like a horror anthology, and it's all like found footage, like different like short stories, and there's
And it's
one
called
where
the
there's
VHS movies.
they're just called VHS. I think it's just VHS. There's VHS 1990 something, which comes after the first one. Anyways, they're great. Watch them. But there's one where it's like there's like a rat god king thing that it's wild. That's what it made me think of. But that's all I know.
What the Rat King is in especially in New York City, where there's a lot of rats, is it's not like a big rat. A Rat King is a bunch of rats that their tails
Like,
have become tangled up,
And
in
they
each
like
other.
form together. Oh, well, yeah, like it is an actual thing. It's a bunch of rats that I guess when they're like sucking and fucking in the sewers, their tails get all like ratted and just they're all stuck together and can't escape, and they normally like die like that. And there's like a dead one that's stuck against all the live ones. Yeah, it's really sad.
It's really sad.
It's very
Oh my
sad.
god.
But
Yeah.
then there's this folkloric spirit called the Rat King, where he is like a huge monsoon of like a wave of rats that has come together and formed like the body of a rat. Like a bunch, thousands of rats, kind of like the little like Megazord or whatever in Power
I was just about to
Rangers.
say that was gonna be my reference. Was like as a Megazord from the fucking Power Rangers.
whenever
of
all of
rats.
their motorcycles or whatever come together and form a humanoid thing, that's what the Rat King is in folklore.
Oh my god.
That's
So
terrifying.
that's like a city spirit. Like you guys have
Yeah.
spirits in the city, and they're probably not named like that, but you could find them, and that's just, again, this goes back to being more open about your spiritual experiences, because if you don't talk about it, then how would you know that you can go out and just sit under a tree and have a weird vision about a headless spirit that looks like your great grandmother that's on fire, but she also has like a dildo hanging out of her mouth. Like you don't like weird things like that. You see the weirdest, wildest things, and
absolutely.
if you don't hear other people affirming you, like, yeah, like I see weird shit too, I hear weird shit, then you just kind of think that you're making it up. But no, like that's an actual spirit that lives right outside your house. And I don't
And
know.
then to speak on Raya's point about like being nervous about going out and like just random folks being out there, transients, if that, like those folks have spirits attached to them too. That is a very powerful energy to also feed off. If it's like the energy of the city is something that should be utilized in some way safely if you can. But like the park that we go to in the middle of the night, folks sleep in that park. It's a huge park. It's a hiking trail. And people, they set up camp and they live in this park. And so we're also in their home. That we are in the home that they have, we are in the space that they have called their home, and the spirits of that park protect them. So we have to also, give our own respects and gratitude to the folks who call that place home, not just to the spirits, but to the people. And I understand there's a certain amount of, anxiety that would bring for anybody. Usually they leave you alone. It's not, based on my experience, they usually just leave us alone. Also, we kind of walk into the park kind of spooky looking, so I don't think that people are really gonna
They're
bother
more scared of you.
Yeah, they're more scared of us, because like we do the whole thing. Like we're all glammed up and we walk into the park in cloaks. You know what I mean? It's like they know that we're doing something that they don't want to deal with. You know what I mean? So
Transvestite rituals, yeah.
What is it?
Exactly.
The conspiracy theory adrenochrome. Y'all are having little adrenochrome rituals in the park.
What is that?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's like, I don't know. It's some fucking conspiracy theory that like right-wing people believe that like the government officials drink the blood and adrenochrome of children so they look young and live forever. It's a whole thing.
Oh God. I mean, sure. They're not.
I'm all for it.
I'm for it. Yeah. I was like, that sounds great. I mean, it keeps you young and sacrifice children, especially the loud ones that their parents can't control. So yeah, I mean, that's just something that that is the spirit of the city. That is the energy of the city. Going into a dangerous part of town is something that people have done as initiations. That's one of the things that my friend Cody was called to do by one of their spirits when he lived in Chicago, where it's like part of this initiation is you have to go to a really dangerous part of your town to do this spell, and you have to go alone in the middle of the night, and he had to do it, and it's just part of it. It's part of the spell. It's just part of it. Diving into that danger, diving into that uncomfortable part of your physical self is part of navigating what it means to be a magical practitioner in some cases. It is part of it. What I do is going to the woods and the risk of one, getting caught, two, being eaten by a mountain lion. We have mountain lions out here and coyotes.
Oh my god, that is so
we have
scary.
those in San Francisco too.
Yeah, we have mountain lions, and we conjure in the mountains. Yeah, it's scary. And we do.
time-
I mean,
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say one time I coerced one of my close friends to do a Ouija
Coerced.
board session with me. I did. And there's a spot in San Francisco near these old ruins of a bathhouse that used to be there. It's called Sutro Baths. Very haunted.
Keanu was supposed to bring me there, and we didn't have time, but I wanted to go there so bad.
So I went there at night with one of my friends with the Ouija board, and like as we found a cool spot to sit down and start initiating a session, like a fucking badger just starts coming down like the hill that's like at the top of like we're at the bottom of a hill. It's coming down at us, and it just get closer and closer. So we're like, we're just gonna call this a night, and we're just gonna go.
Badger? Were
And
you
badgers
scared
aren't
of
scared of
badger.
people.
No,
They-
that's
they're
why we
not
were like,
scared
we're
of
getting the
people.
fuck out of here.
Really?
Yeah.
I love badgers.
Oh no, but badgers they'll attack. Like they're not scared of people. Like they're kind of
Oh,
like
no, they're
raccoons.
not.
Like they'll go for it.
Yeah, they will. But I don't know. Like I'm not really. I guess we grew up in different places, very different places.
Flo's like, I'll pet the badger.
I will. Like I pick up
Take
all
the
the
badger home.
toads. I pick up the snakes. I'm not afraid of the bugs. I touch all of it. I'm a grubby, dirty girl. Like as a kid, I was always covered in mud. I was always picking up things and eating things, and yeah,
You'll smell it before you see her.
yeah. But I just feel like I don't know. There's this. I'm kind of jealous of you guys because there's this abundance of land that is still populated by people. It's not like wild. Like when I go outside, the spirits are like hungry. The spirits have not seen a person in years. There's no one here. It's not densely packed. There's not people that are homeless in the woods. There's none of that here. There is in the Ozark Mountains, it's very easy for you to just like step in a hole and fall into a cave and die. Like that's a thing that happens all the time. There's so many caves under the mountains here. And I don't know. My fears are just kind of like, don't fall. Don't get bit by a venomous snake. I would be super, super anxious to live where you guys do and there be people around. Even if they're like good people and that there's nothing to fear. I'm so scared.
Oh no, I mean that's definitely a valid. I mean, even when we go to the park, there are rangers who drive past. I mean, there's like this crossroad that we find where we conjure. Why did I say it like that? Where we conjure. So there's this crossroads but the crossroads is like in a ditch that's right above a road. So we see the rangers drive by all the time. We see the lights, we see the noises. It happens every single time. We think that they can't see us, but I'm pretty sure they can. And when they see a group of cloaked queers in the
I would be
woods,
so self-conscious.
I think we just got used to it. And also I think we just stopped caring. And I mean, we have like an open fire. We bring a cauldron with us, and we have like a fire going in the cauldron. So it's
Oh
like,
my
it's not-
god.
yeah, it's not 100% safe, but like we know what we're doing. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's
Ranger's like, go faster,
Starting
go faster.
forest fires. Yeah.
but if they see like an open fire in the middle of the fucking woods, they're gonna say something, obviously. But like, it's what's needed. It's what we need to do. We need to cast a fire in
Yeah.
a cauldron.
It's one of those moments you just kind of believe the spirits are gonna like keep things right for the ritual.
And they do every single time. You know what I mean? They do every single time. I do an incantation that worked, and every single time we've gone, I've used that same spell every single time. And it's the incantation. It's we are invisible to those who wish to see us fail. One time it worked so well, there was like a fog around us. I shit you not, it was incredible. I was like, okay, whatever. It's the weather. It's moist. There's a
No.
fog around us. But in my head, I was just like, I did that. That was me.
I do that all the time. I'll be like, try to make sense of it in a way that doesn't give myself as much credit, but I'm also just like,
That was me.
I totally did that.
Yeah, that was me. So I was like, in my head, I was like, like Halle Berry, like floating up the elevator as Storm, and she has like white eyes and shit. I was like, that
Good
was
Yes.
fucking vibe.
me. That was me.
I do that all. The weather is such an important thing to me. It's very windy here. very humid. And my grandmother, I've always just kind of called her a weather witch. She's not, but she's always had really weird ties to the weather. She has arthritis. So like her joints hurt whenever it's about to storm. So like people would always be like, "Is it gonna storm today?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, like my knees are kind of hurting, so it's probably gonna storm this week." But I just like, whenever you're outside reading an incantation or just like praying to a spirit, the wind kicks up.
Yeah.
And you're just like, the leaves start
Or
shaking
the
in the
trees move. The trees move and there's
Yeah.
no wind. That happens to me a lot. Where I'm doing like an incantation and the trees move, but there's no fucking wind. I'm just like, that
And
was
it's one
me.
of those things where it's like, I don't think that like a cishet person that is not oppressed in some way could do that. Like, I think my power comes from my otherness, my witch initiation, my queerness, and I feel like
My
yeah,
inherent
like
liminality.
you can
Yeah.
you can have your pussy, moon, womb stuff. That's great. It's very powerful. But like, if you haven't gone through some sort of initiation, I don't know. I feel like queerness is an initiation in a way, and I feel like
It
other
is.
people have to go out of their way to go through an initiation, like your friend that went to a dangerous part of town, or like people in indigenous cultures that live in the wilderness for like a month, and whenever they come back, they're a grown man, like they've achieved adulthood or whatever. And I feel like being queer, we kind of do that in our own way.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, and and Rye, I would love for you to expand on what I'm about to say, because Flo already mentioned it. Is that your queerness is not in a way an initiation? It is an initiation because
Yeah.
my friend who had to go into a dangerous part of town to initiate themselves into the craft is something that we had to do our entire lives. Us being queer is dangerous. So that is our initiation. And it could be part of our initiation, but you being queer and also being a witch, that is your initiation. It is something that you inherently have that not everyone does. It is a privilege that you being queer is your privilege into finding your path. And it's something that I had to figure out, and it's something that I carry with me every single fucking day. Because my queerness is something that gives me my power. It is something that has given me my confidence. It is something that has granted me my happiness, but it is also something that has granted me the most traumatic and most depressing parts of my entire being. It's both. It has given me that. So
100%. Yeah. I feel like when you're in the other, it's already in a way like brings you closer to the divine and the spirit realm, which I feel like Flo spoke to this earlier. Just like indigenous cultures have seen that already from, centuries past, like the indigenous communities that have two spirit identities, or even the Babaylan in the Philippines were men who dressed effeminately, or in queer people and trans people, because they were already seen as having this innate magic and ability to communicate with the spirit realm that cishet people didn't possess. And so, yes, I completely wholeheartedly believe that being queer in and of itself is an initiation. And to add on to that, I think it's, as you grow into that and become more aware of it and also embrace it, because there are those who are queer that will try to repress it. The more you grow into it and embrace it as your fully authentic self, that furthers the initiation, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like when you claim that as your power, you're able to tap into that power.
yeah.
We're so esoteric and hot. Like, we're the hottest, girliest girls. We are so smart.
Girl, this is basic doll behavior. And I don't know why people can't catch up. Some people just
Yeah.
can't catch up.
No, like, talk about that, because I don't. Okay, I'm mentoring a few people.
Spill, please.
I would never say I'm like a master at what I do, but I know enough to teach people, because there's so many people that are so misled. And I feel like I know enough, and I've done enough, and I practice enough to lead some people in some ways. So I have taken on a few mentees. And something that really gets me is that I don't want to say all of them, but most of them are always asking, like, how do you know that this is working? How do you know the spirits are accepting your petition? And I'm just like, you must not be trans because you aren't feeling this power. It's like a part of you that you've kept hidden your entire life is being seen and received and accepted. And that is the same feeling I feel when I'm doing spells. That is the same feeling I feel when I'm praying to a spirit, talking
It's a
to a
very
spirit,
good
cursing
point.
someone. And it's like, I want to teach you how to do effective magic and have really good relationships with your spirits. But it's so hard to explain something to someone who's not queer, and more specifically, who's not trans. Not to say that your type of queer is not as powerful as my type of queer, but I didn't grow up the same way that the people that I'm mentoring did. So I run into a wall in some ways where it's like, oh, you don't have this otherworldly ability about you. You don't have this otherness ingrained in your body. You don't have these perceptions that other people are forcing onto you and your body and what you need to look like and be shaped like to be whatever gender. And it's just so difficult to mentor people who are not trans. And I love the people that I'm mentoring. I have built very close relationships with them. Some of them I would even say are friends with me now. But again, like it's just there's a part of magic that, not to say you get it or you don't, but some of us are just more destined to do some things and some of us are not.
It's
And
either you, but it is though. You're right. It is either you get it or you don't.
And the girls that get it, get it. The hot
Yeah.
esoteric bimbo girlies that get it, get it.
definitely. And I think you can like learn some things. Like you can learn to read tarot like it's a system, right? Anyone can memorize the definitions of the tarot cards, but then some of us are also reading the spirits above the cards and the spirits in the room, not just the cards themselves. So then it's one of those moments where it's like, not to say I'm better than you, but
I'm better than you.
But
Yeah.
and I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't say I'm gifted. I don't know. I don't know if my like fingers are in the camera when I do this, because like my little like screen is just a cute little square, and I feel like my camera is like very wide angled. Okay, so I'm doing quotation marks around that. Also, if you're not watching this, I don't feel like there's this power that I have, and I don't want to say I'm gifted. I don't want to say that I'm a medium or a psychic or any of those things. Maybe that's maybe that's because I don't like thinking as highly of myself. Maybe it's a mental health issue, insecurity. But I don't know. I feel like those gifts are part of being trans or being gay, being queer, being non-binary. I feel like this not fitting in the world around you has given you abilities, and maybe some of us can see spirits better than others. Maybe some of us can and just haven't learned how to use that yet. But I don't know. I've never been cis. So I can't tell you if I would still have these abilities if I were cis. But for me, being queer is my magic. I don't know. I honestly get kind of grossed out by people that aren't queer and practice witchcraft. Hot take. But, but I'll have conversations with people and they're talking about just, the normal, like, pussy womb moon magic, which is, again, super powerful.
Yeah.
Super powerful. We love bleeding pussy. We love that. Put it in your husband's tea. Actually, don't. But, like, put it in your husband's tea. And
For
make him
legal
fall in love
reasons,
with
don't.
you.
But
Yeah.
put it in your husband's tea.
But that's, like, there's so much more than that. We're, like, putting our magic into our body and not, like, I don't know, like, that's just so not for me. I've never done anything like that. My magic isn't surrounded by how my body looks or how it's shaped or how my body reproduces. I just do the magic.
Yeah, we navigate it differently. Absolutely.
I think we've
It's
given
like
the public too much good free information, so I think now's a good time that if y'all want any more,
Yeah.
subscribe to our Patreon to hear us elaborate
Subscribe.
even more in our Patreon post shows.
Yeah, and what we're gonna do in the Patreon post show for this particular episode is we're gonna be diving a little bit deeper into Flo's cosmology,
Oh my god.
because I just want Flo to just kind of run with it. I just want to
Oh
like
Lord.
I want to hear your witch
forever.
initiation.
Yes, that's something that's a very interesting conversation. So, if y'all have not had the chance to do so, please subscribe to the Patreon and listen to the post show. We are very, very grateful for all the patrons, the Patreon members that we have now. All of them will be shown on the screen. Thank you so much for your subscription, and thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you. You can find our Patreon at patreon.com/the red text. And we have 3 tiers that you are free to subscribe to. The lowest tier will get our monthly rosary circles, as well as our bonus shows and bonus episodes, or post shows and bonus episodes, as well as blog posts. And benefits are added the higher you go. So just read up. Thank you for our top subscribers. They will be shown on the screen now. And yeah, anything else before we move on to the post show, y'all?
No.
Nope.
Be queer.
Not for
do
me.
witchcraft.
Be
you
queer,
can't be a
do
witch if you're
witchcraft.
not queer. Sorry, hot take.
Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of The Red Text, for another Unholy Communion. I'm your co-host, Rai, aka the Mestizo Mystic.
And I am Voga Illumiscente.
And I am Flo, the trans folk witch on Instagram.
And we'll see you on our next Unholy Communion.